Hey guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, okay. Apparently, a lot of people have questions. So let's start with Jumena. What's your question?
Miss, I don't memorize the like what comes after pollination and how fertilization.
Me too. Like, can we revise on the flower?
Yes.
You want to revise on the flower?
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
parts of the flower.
Well, I'm supposed to be coming here for you to ask questions. What exactly is your question? The life cycle of the plant?
Yes.
Yes.
Miss, and this and the parts of the flower.
Miss, I am confused between the consumer and the producer and these things. I got so confused from them.
مثلا مشان ده الفلاور كله.
Uh-huh.
Miss, what if I don't have a question?
No, this session is for for questions, Ziad. If you don't have a question,
You want revision? We'll do a
no,
revision.
it's not for revision. It is for questions. And I told you that you should be answering a lot of past papers in order.
Yes, I already finished past papers.
Okay, this is great. If you have any questions about it, a specific question, just tell me.
No.
Okay, fine. I'm here for an hour for any questions from 3 to 4. Okay. So for the people who are here for like lessons, I really don't get it. You're supposed to be answering questions. You're supposed to be answering past papers. While you are answering past papers, you have a problem with the flower lesson, the whole lesson?
Not
يا مس أنا مش فاهم اللي
No,
أنت
Miss, the life cycle, like what
cycle
comes
and the
after
parts of it.
pollination.
Okay, and what about Limar? Limar, we've been through the mock exam. You did well in the mock exam when it comes to this part.
I know, but يعني I got confused in the mock exam and the producer and the consumer.
Okay.
دول. I'm kind of confused from them.
All right.
The praise.
Yeah, Zain, do you have a question? This is for questions.
Yes, I know.
Okay, do you have a question?
Yes, can we please revise the flower because I'm not
Miss,
very
like
good
all
in it.
of us want the flower, so yeah.
Interesting.
I
All
don't
right,
want the
guys.
flower.
You don't understand the flower too.
No, I don't want the flower.
Miss, it's the names.
I
I
understand it
understand
Yeah,
very
what
well,
should
but
I
the
do with the
names
names?
I
Okay,
keep
I will
forgetting.
revise. Oh, this is very well. I will revise the flower for you guys.
I got
But
confused.
just give me 1 second. I want to talk. I will revise the flower for you, no problem at all. But what should I do with the names? You should memorize the names.
Parts of the flower.
Yeah, I
just
know, I
understand.
understand. I'm going to revise it for you. What do you expect from me? When it comes to the names, I have no problem, dear. I am going to revise the flower with you. I have no problem at all. I'm just really, I don't understand what do you expect from me when it comes to the names of the parts of the flower. Do you expect that I will keep like doing like with kids? I will say the name and you say after me, and I will say the name and you say after me, and so on.
No, I
Then
just got
what is it?
confused where the I know the names, but I get confused like which part of the flower is named this.
All right, perfect.
Yes, Miss, just get an image of it so we can try to memorize it.
You don't have an image of it? You don't have a PowerPoint? You don't have
I can't find it. I was searching and I couldn't find it.
All right, very well. I will revise it with you guys. But I just don't want you to expect that I'm going to keep like repeating it for you until you memorize it. All right, I don't want you to put your hopes high. At this point, you're supposed to know everything. You're just answering questions in your past paper, and if you have any questions, you should come to me. But the whole thing is that I'm really shocked that you're here to tell me that I'm still confused about things. We were answering past papers for over a month now. This is what
Miss-
upsets me. This what makes me upset right now. That
Miss, I'm not
I was
confused,
just give me 1 second. I was expecting you to come here to tell me about specific questions in past papers. I am shocked that you're here for things that you don't even know, or you're still getting confused about it. Your past papers are tomorrow. Sorry, your
Miss-
checkpoint is tomorrow.
I have a question about the past papers.
Okay, Ziad, would you give me please 1 second, because apparently all of them, they have a major problem in the flower lesson, so I'm just going to revise it for them, and then you can
See,
ask that question.
Yeah, the question doesn't need like
Just
it
give
doesn't
me,
need a
all
share
right,
screen.
all right, yeah, but they did first, okay? And you said that you don't have any questions, right? Just give me a minute, please. I just want to get done with the flower. And all right. Here we go. I'm just opening the PowerPoint, and I'm looking for the exact week that I uploaded the flowering plant PowerPoint in it for Zain, in case you just want to check it again.
Hi, Miss. I am Maddie.
Hi, Maddie. It's taking some time. I'm sorry, guys. It doesn't even want to open. You know, like my whole laptop is objecting what you're asking for.
Miss, I changed my name to Mariam Walid.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Miss, can I ask you a question? Is the code next to my name right? Because I don't have the book and I forgot it.
You don't have what book?
The book, I
No,
don't have
Zain,
it.
it's supposed to be 3 numbers.
This is the code. I think it's for, is it the same code that you, when you get inside the Zoom, is it the same that your actual code in the school?
Then look
It's
at any code.
same, but I changed my name by accident before and I forgot the code. So I don't know if the code that's in my name now is right.
Oh, I don't know. I cannot help you with this, Zain. I don't
No,
know.
yeah, Zain, it's supposed to be 3 numbers.
I know,
Zain.
so the number is wrong. I don't remember.
Look at any
I
book,
think you can ask
at
Mustafa
any old
about
book
it.
even.
All right. Finally, it opened. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we are going to revise quickly about the flowering plants, and then I will see what Ziad wants, and then I will continue with you, Limar, about the food chain I can't believe I'm actually doing this. Oh my God.
Miss, aren't we going to solve past papers?
No, dear, I'm here not to do anything. I'm here just for you. If you want to ask any questions in the past papers, I am really,
Okay.
just don't let me go there, okay? I'm furious right
Go
now.
where?
Just
Go where?
where? Nothing, Mary, okay? Okay, guys, do you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we know that the parts of the whole plant, of course, is the, let's start from the bottom, the roots, and the roots are supposed to be absorbing the water and the minerals from the soil to deliver it to the rest of the plant. Then you have the stem, and the stem is supposed to be like the extension of the roots, but in the upper part of the plant. The roots is under the soil, the stem is like the upper part, and it's supposed to be like the rest of the delivering system. It takes the water and the minerals from the roots and starts to like distribute it for the rest of the plant. Okay. Now, the next part is, of course, the leaves, and the leaves are supposed to be the factory of the plant. It is where the photosynthesis occurs. It takes the sunlight and starts to using the sunlight and the water, of course, from the roots. They start to make the photosynthesis process, which provides the food for the rest of the plant. And the last part is the flower, and this is what we're going to talk about today. The flower is supposed to be responsible for the reproduction of the plants. This is what is the job of the flower. It is for the reproduction of the plants. The whole thing is made in order to make the seeds, in order to make the pollens, in order to attract insects to it, of course, in case of pollination, and this is what we're going to talk about later. Okay, so of course, I'm just going quickly because we don't have time. We're only having 1 hour to talk about the whole thing. Okay, now the parts of the flowers where a lot of people don't understand. First of all, let me just point the whole thing. All right. Now you have, first of all, the receptacle, guys. The receptacle is the base of the flower. It's what holds the whole flower. It has to be very strong in order to hold the whole flower. So the receptacle is like the base of the flower. Okay, it holds the flower. Now next is the sepal, and the sepal is the green leaf which is right under the flower. It looks like a leaf, but it's not a leaf, and this is why we call it a sepal. And the sepal is supposed to be responsible for protecting the bud. When the flower is still a small flower that is germinating or growing, the sepal is supposed to protect it because it's very delicate. So this is why the sepal is important for the beginning of the flower production. So the sepal is the green part that is right under the flower. Okay, now let's go through the colorful leaves or the colorful petals. This is what the petals are. They are supposed to be colorful and they are supposed to be scented. And those two properties are very important in order to protect, in order to attract the insects to it. And this is how the flower most of the times get pollinated through the insects. And in order for the insects to get attracted to the flower, the petals should be colorful and should be scented. Do you know what's the meaning of scented?
It has a smell.
All right, exactly. All right. Can you hear me well, guys?
Yes.
No? All right.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So again, the receptacle is the base which holds the whole flower. The sepal is the green part that is found right under the flower, which looks like a small leaves, and its job is to protect the bud. The bud is the beginning of the production of the flower when it's still young. Okay, then the petals, and the petals are the colorful and scented parts. which are supposed to be attracting the insects to the flower. Okay, now we're done with the general parts. Those are the general parts, like they are not specific to the male and female parts of the flower. Those are the general parts. Okay, now let's come to the male and the female parts. First of all, there is the male parts, and the male parts are only the male organ is only made of two parts. The first part is the anther, which is the chambers that you find at the top of the stamen, and there is the filament, and the filament is the stalk that is holding the anther. Together, both of them are called stamen. So this means that the male organ is called stamen. The main organ is the stamen. The stamen is made of what? It's made of two parts. The anther, which is the two chambers that you find up at the top of the stamen, and the filament is the very thin stalk that holds the anther. Now, what does the stamen do? What does the anther do? The anther is the part of the stamen which is responsible for producing the pollen grains. So this means that the pollen grains is the male cell, okay? The cell that the male organ does, or what the male organ makes. And the filament is simply the stalk that holds the anther. It doesn't do anything. It just holds the anther. Okay, so the stamen is the male part of the flower. It's made of two parts, which is the anther at the top of the stamen and the filament which holds the anther. The anther is responsible for producing the pollen grains, which is the male cells in the flower, while the filament is supposed to be the stalk that is holding the anther. Is it clear so far?
Yes, Miss, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Okay, let me finish the whole
Yes.
flower and then give me the questions in.
It's
Okay,
about the filament.
okay, it's fine. Just let me finish the whole thing, and then I will give you a chance to ask me the question. All right,
Okay.
now that was the male part. What about the female part? The female part is called the what? Is called
Still or the carpel?
the pistil or the carpel. Excellent. Thank you, Mariam. So the whole thing is called the pistil or the carpel. Both of them are correct. I don't want you to get confused between the pistil, which is the female part, and the petal. The petal is the colorful part or the colorful petals that is supposed to be attracting the insects. Okay, so the pistil or the carpel is the female part, and it's formed of three main parts: the stigma, the style, and the ovary. The stigma is the top of the pistil, at the top of the pistil. Most of the times it's sticky. Why is it sticky? So that the pollen grains, when it's transferred from the stamen to the pistil, can stick on it. Okay, because the pollen grains are very light. If the stigma is not sticky enough, they will just be blown away by the wind. All right, so the stigma is the top part of the pistil or the carpel, where the pollen grains are supposed to be landing. And then there is the style, which is this long tube right after the stigma. This long tube is called the style. And then at the end, you will find this blown part, or a little bit, it's like an enlarged part. This is what the ovary is. Okay, so those are.
What does the style do?
The style is supposed to be connecting between the stigma and the ovary. This is number one. Number two, when the pollination occurs and the fertilization is supposed to start, the pollen grains will stick to the stigma, and then it will start to extend a tube through the style. And it's very important for the style to be there, so that when the pollen grains extend this tube, it can reach the what? The ovules, which are those small round things found inside the ovaries. And this is how the fusion will be done and the fertilization will be done. Okay, so the style is supposed to be connecting between the stigma and the ovary, and it's the long tube that when the pollen sticks to the stigma, the pollen tube starts to extend inside it. Okay, is it clear so far for all of you guys? Do you have any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
What is
I have
it?
a
The
question.
ovary
Okay,
is
let's
where
start
the
with Zain.
fertilization and pollination
Just give me one
occurs.
second. Give me one second. Zain, what's your question?
Why does the anther need to be held up? Why can't it be on down?
To make it easier for the insects. This way, it's easier for the insects, for the pollens to stick in the insect mouth and legs and etc. If it's down there, you don't have an insect that will keep moving until it reaches the bottom of, or this way we can simply have the ovules wide open and just the insects will get the pollen grains inside the ovule. Am I right?
جبت 4.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is why it should be held up. All right. If you have any questions, yes, raise your hands. Yes, Mariam, what's your question?
Miss, sometimes I don't remember the definition of fertilization and the definition of
Okay,
pollination.
we're going to revise this, no problem. Hey, any other questions?
Yes.
Miss,
Please raise your
Yes.
hand. I want you to raise your hand so I can, I just want to know who is asking the question. Yasin Abdel Hamid, are you asking a question or did you forget your mic open?
I forgot my mark.
Okay, yes, Ruqayya.
Miss, the ovary is where the fertilization and pollination occurs.
No. Guys, there is a difference between pollination and fertilization, and this is what we're going to talk about later. Okay?
The ovary is where the fertilization occurs.
Yes, inside the ovaries, inside the ovules. The ovules are the small eggs inside the ovary. The ovary is the swollen part. Okay?
Miss, if in the exam it asks me to say two things that the ovary does. Should I say connects the stigma?
Ovary does?
Sorry. Yes.
It holds the ovules, nothing else. It just
Okay,
contains
I
the
meant the
ovules
style.
inside it.
The
No,
style.
the style,
If
yeah,
ask me for
you can
style.
mention that it connects the stigma with, they will never ask you for two things that the style do. Did you ever see such a question in any of your past papers?
No.
No.
Thank you so much.
But
Okay.
it may come in our exam.
Seriously? The style does what? It connects the stigma to the ovary.
Okay.
All right. Now, when it comes to pollination, guys, pollination from its name, so it is connected to the pollen grains. It is connected to the pollen grains. So the whole thing is about the pollen grains. A very simple definition for pollination. It's when the pollens or the pollen grains, whatever is, both of them are correct. It is when the pollens transfer from the male organ to the female organ. That's it. That's it. I don't know why do you have a major problem with it. Pollination is connected with the pollen grains. So this means that pollination is when pollens are transferred from the male organ to the female organ. If you want to be more specific, pollination is when the pollen transfers from the anther to the stigma. If you want to be more generalized, it's when the pollens transfer from the stamen to the pistil. So if you mentioned anything related to the pollens transferring from the male organ to the female organ, this is what pollination is. Are you still confused? We said it like 1,000 times. Huh? Is there
No.
still a question about the transfer of pollens
No,
from the
I'm not
male
already
to the
confused from this
female?
lesson. I'm not
From
confused
the,
from
all
this
right,
lesson
all right,
already.
all right. From the male to the female, from the stamen to the pistil, from the anther to the stigma. Huh? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now there are two types of pollination. Sometimes some flowers have only the male organ, and the other flowers have only the female organs. So the cross-pollination is when the insect or the pollens transfer from the male organ of one flower to the female organ of another flower. Okay? Even if both of them have both the male and female organs, sometimes it happens. The male produces pollens from one flower, and then the pollens transfer into another flower to the female organ of this other flower. The self-pollination is when the pollens transfer from the male organ of the flower to the female organ of the same flower.
Miss,
Yes.
do a lot of flowers have it? They have male and female
This is not
organs?
vital right now, Zain, seriously. This is not vital right now. We're trying to save what we can save right now. Okay, so any questions that you have regarding life, just please postpone it. Okay, now pollination, we're done with pollination. This is a question, Ruqayya, that you might find, and we saw it before. The question of what attracts the insect to the flower. You have three things. Number one is
Here is
the
the quiz.
what? Yeah, and it comes in the past papers too, and it will most probably, maybe it will come to you in the checkpoint. The three things that attract insects to the flower. Those are the type of questions that come.
Okay.
Nectar, color, scent. Nectar, color, scent. Yeah, I remember Hala, you're the one who said that it came to in the quiz.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
So and this quiz where I asked about the definition of fertilization, I guess, and none of you answered it. Anyway, now is pollination clear?
Yes.
Is pollination clear?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Now let's come to the second part, which is the
Yes.
fertilization. Fertilization is the step right after pollination. Fertilization is the step right after fertilization. Now we managed to get the pollen from the male part to the female part. Now the pollen is stuck to the stigma. As you can see, the top part, the very top part of the pistil is the stigma. Now the pollens, which is the male cell, is stuck to the stigma. Very well. What's next? Next is the fertilization process. And the fertilization process, if you want the very simple definition, is when the male cell enters the female cell. That's it. It's when the male cell, which is the pollen, enters the egg, which is the female cell. Is it hard? What?
That's the fertilization?
Yes, the pollen enters the egg. Full stop. Full stop. This is it. Fertilization is when the pollen enters the egg. How is that done? This is not the definition. This is how the fertilization is done. The definition of fertilization is when the pollen enters the egg. Don't confuse yourself with a lot of vocabulary. How is it done? How is fertilization done? Once the pollen stuck to the stigma, it starts to produce a very long tube. This tube that is inside the style, not the style itself. Yasin Abdul Hamid.
Yes.
Because you get confused in this part. Okay, the style is not the pollination tube or the pollen tube. The style is a part of the female part. Inside the style, when the pollen is stuck to the stigma, it starts to extend the pollen tube inside the style. Okay, so now you have the pollen stuck to the stigma. It will start to produce this long tube which goes or extends inside the style, which we call the pollen tube. This way, it's like making a pathway for the pollen to reach what? The egg or the ovule. This way, the pollen will reach the egg or the ovule. It's just making a way for itself, called the pollen tube. This is how fertilization is done. What about its definition? When the pollen enters the egg. Full stop. That's it. So again, what is pollination? Pollination is when pollen transfers from the stamen to the pistil, or from the male part to the female part. And I prefer that you make it more specific, from the stamen to the pistil. That will be better. This is pollination. Again, pollination is related, or it's specified for pollen grains, the movement of the pollen grains. When the pollen transfers from the stamen to the pistil. This is pollination. What about fertilization? Fertilization is when the pollen enters the egg. The pollen enters the egg. The pollen enters the egg. That's it.
Okay.
All right. Now, do you have a problem with the structure of the seed?
No.
Okay. So the problem now is with the cycle. Right? We're going to the cycle. Hello. Okay. Now, what is the cycle, life cycle of the plant? Okay. The life cycle of the plant. Ruqayya, yes, what's your question?
No, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, Abdullah, do you have a question?
No, yeah, Miss. I was just wanted to answer.
Oh, no answering here. They don't understand.
Just
They still don't understand. This is the problem. Yes, Yasin. Yasin Abdul Hamid. Yasin Abdul Hamid, do you have a question?
Miss, there are 7 minutes. I'm Mariam. There are 7 minutes left. When they are finished, we enter again, right?
Yes, you will enter again. Yes. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm just looking for a clear image for the cycle. No, not here. All right. Okay. Now, Jumana, I want you to pay attention, huh? Are you there? Okay. So now you have an adult tree, as you can see. An adult tree means that it has flowers. Adult tree is already fully grown, so of course it has flowers. All right. Now, what is the first thing that happens? The first thing that happens is the pollination. After the pollination, what happens? Fertilization. And the pollination is the part where you can find in any exam an insect standing on the flower. Okay, when the insect is standing on the flower and they ask you, what is this? Yeah, Yasin, I don't understand what's wrong with the, do you have a problem with your mic? If you have a problem with your mic, you can send the question here. Okay, so the pollination is the first step, okay? And this is where you can find, sometimes they bring you a picture of an insect standing on the flower. They will ask you, what is this step? Then you know that the insect is one of the main ways of the pollination, because this is how the pollens get stuck to their mouth and their body and their legs and transferred to another flower. So the first one is the pollination. After the pollination, you have the fertilization, okay? When the fertilization occurs, once the fertilization occurs, the ovary starts to turn into a fruit. And the small ovules inside the ovary, those the ones that transfers into the seed. So the seed is like the baby of the flower. Once the after the fertilization, seed dispersal. If you want to like skip the part where the fruit is made, okay? So the fertilization, the outcome of the fertilization is the fruit and the seed inside it, okay? Then after that, the seed dispersal comes, all right? Once the seed dispersal happens, the germination occurs, and then we go through this cycle again. Do you want me to repeat it?
No.
No, Miss.
Okay, I will repeat it one more time. You have an adult tree or an adult plant. So this means that it has flowers. Once it has flowers, so this means that the reproduction will occur. The reproduction starts with the pollination. So number 1 is the pollination. Number 2, fertilization. Fertilization is when the pollen enters the egg, okay? After that, you can write fruit production after the fertilization. If you don't want to write it, that's completely fine. The fertilization, after the fertilization, number 3 is seed dispersal, and after seed dispersal is the germination. So those are the 4 main steps of the whole life cycle: pollination, fertilization, seed dispersal, germination. Again, pollination, fertilization, seed dispersal, germination. Okay? After germination, sometimes they like put in the germination part, they like put the seed and a small plant coming out of it. This is what germination is. And then they bring you another picture of a fully grown plant or like a big plant. This is what growing
This is how it looks after the germination.
Yes, and you call it growing. You don't call it germination. Germination is the very small plant that comes out of the seed. This is what germination is. Okay. The next step is growing. Okay. Hey, Jomana, is that clear?
Yes.
Ruqayya, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything in the plant or the flowering plant lesson that you still are confused about?
No.
No.
All right. Ziad Tamer, I'm going to end this session and I will start the new one right now. Prepare your question, okay?
Okay.
All right.